Hey, everybody. It's BJ and Christine. We're here with the TLRD podcast for the Love of Dog weekly update. So um, let's talk about Charlotte needing a foster, Christine.
So we talked about this last week during our update, and unfortunately, we have gotten zero applications for Charlotte. We're urgently seeking a new foster for Charlotte. She had been in boarding, got out of boarding into a foster home, which we were thrilled about. And unfortunately, the foster had some changes come up in their home, and Charlotte needs to move as soon as possible. She's an easy dog. Obviously, you need to put in some work, but she's walks great. She loves just hanging around the house. She's low energy. She does need to be the only dog in the house, and she is cat tested. She does great with cats. So if you have a cat and no dogs, she could be a great fit for you. We're looking for somebody in Southern California so Charlotte can attend adoption events, meet and greets if we have anybody. If she needs to go to the vet, we need to keep her local. But if you could please spread the word about Charlotte, you can find our foster application at thelittlereddog.org and just click on forms, and we will get back to you right away so we can interview you and hopefully get Charlotte into a new foster home.
Yeah, so just a couple of things to build on that. One, Charlotte didn't do anything wrong. That's not why she's losing her foster. It's just like, as Christine said, there's just been some changes in their life, and they just can no longer have her there. And she is a really good girl. She spent over a year in boarding, so we really, really, really don't want her to go back to boarding. We do offer training. We do offer support. All of the supplies, vet care, and everything is taken care of for you, food and everything. So it really is just having a soft, safe, inside place to stay and somebody who will walk her a couple of times a day. And like she said, she is cat friendly. So a lot of times we have people who want to foster, but they have cats. She actually has lived with a cat before. So please open your heart and your home to Charlotte, even if it's just for a little while. Although I hope that you could commit, to several months or as long as it takes for her to get adopted, because that's how these dogs get into a forever home. I think we talked about this before, but we had Millie in boarding for over a year. She got into a foster home, and like a month or two later, she got adopted. For some reason, it's magical sometimes when a dog goes from boarding and then goes to foster. It just helps them get adopted. So we would appreciate everybody. If you can't, I get it. I have multiple dogs here, but if you know somebody, or just tell everybody, because that really helps us. Find fosters, and that's how we save lives. So, okay, and I'll just say it again, it's thelittlereddog.org. You can click on forms and fill out the foster application, and somebody will get right back to you. Okay, so I think we want to talk a little bit about matching energy levels, to adopters. And do you want to get us started on that, Christine?
I think a lot of people have go into wanting to adopt with good intentions, but I think people need to ask themselves the question, what type of dog is going to fit my lifestyle? Am I a really active person? Am I somebody that just likes to hang out at home and go for an occasional adventure, maybe on the weekend? There are certain breeds that are going to need, or not breeds, certain dogs that are going to need a more active lifestyle. German Shepherds, the Malinois, as opposed to the flat-faced breeds that are going to need shorter walks, Frenchies and Bulldogs. So I think people, when you're filling out an application, a lot of people have an idea about what dog they are applying for, but and we've talked to you about this in the interview. It's not like we're going to adopt a dog to somebody that is completely a couch potato, and that's fine. I love sitting on the couch too. But we do
Nothing wrong with that.
not at all. But we do want people to think about, are they going to be that person that's going to want to take the dog places with them? Is that dog going to be okay in those kind of environments? If you're active, we would love to help, place a dog with you that likes to get out on adventures and thrives in that environment. Um, so I think obviously we're here to help you, but we like people to think ahead before you apply for a dog. And in the bio, we try to give you as much information about the dog as we can, but when you meet the dog in person, that's, I think, when the connection, you'll know if that connection is there or not. And so I think it's really important, with that the energy does need to match the human.
Yeah, and I think kind of going along with that is that some people just have a breed in mind, right? I must have a Frenchie. I must have this. And, in addition to the energy, which I think is a really good point, if you want a Frenchie, be prepared to spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because even if you get them when they're young, as a puppy, and you take the best care of them, feed them the best food, they're going to have problems. They're probably going to have surgery because they've been bred in a certain way that they have to have a surgery so they can breathe. They're prone to back issues. I'm not saying don't get a Frenchie. I'm just saying, to Christine's point, you really need to do your research because on any breed. And things aren't always breed specific. Like we talk about pit bulls. First of all, pit bull's not even a breed, but I'll use it anyway because it's an accepted vernacular and people use it. But some people just think they're terrible and they're not. They're actually really good family dogs and they're very friendly. Yes, some are reactive, but so are some labs. People think every lab is perfect and they're not. Every doodle we walk past a doodle every day, every morning, and he like snarls at us, So I'm just saying that it's not just a breed. I'm not going to have any trouble if I get a lab or whatever. You got to put in the work. And I think the energy level is a huge thing because like Christine said, if you don't want to get off the couch and you get a very athletic breed, you're not going to be happy. The dog's not going to be happy. And so it doesn't really make sense if you get that. And so I think being open, a lot of us look with their eyes too, like you fall in love with the look. I certainly have, and I've certainly done that when I've rescued dogs, only to find out that like Brad, who's all of 11 pounds, is like a little psycho, Cujo, because you can pet him, and all of a sudden he like attacks you, so you never know is my point. And I think that's a really good thing is really start with the energy. And there's some, if I was more prepared today, there's some apps, and I think we're partnering with one. I think it's called Clover. Is that right? Clover X. And you can get on the App Store, and there's a bunch of questions, and that you can fill out and just be honest, and that will help you match dogs, and not necessarily our dogs, but I hope that some of our dogs come up. But it'll match with dogs that are available in your area, and so I think that's a good way to start. If you really don't want to do a lot of research, at least, you can be honest, whether you're a couch potato or you like to do this or whatever, what size dog you want, blah, blah, blah. And it'll help you match a dog. So I think that's a good way to get there, but there's other ways. I mean, obviously everybody has Google or ChatGPT, put some information in there or just, do your own research on, breed websites or whatever. But I'd say be open, but be honest about your energy level and not really so much about the breed, because I think a lot of people are very pleasantly surprised when they are that way and they get a dog and they just absolutely love it. And I know you guys have heard us talk about Sahara. They didn't come in looking for Sahara, but they absolutely adore her, and it was a great match because they were open. So anyway, that's what I'll say about that. I think the last thing. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
I think too, making sure you talk to your whole family so that everyone's going to be involved in taking care of this dog, and it's not just going to be mom walking the dog every day. Everybody needs to be involved in getting that dog the exercise or the lifestyle. It needs to match the whole family. And I think that's why there are so many we see a lot of the same breed at the shelters because people adopt a dog or purchase a dog as a puppy. They don't realize the most common age we see at the shelter is about 2 to 3 years old. So
Yep.
they get the dog as a puppy. They don't realize what that dog's going to need once it gets a little bit older. And then once they realize this dog is too much for my lifestyle, that's when the dogs get turned into the shelter. So, like I said, a lot of the same breeds we see at the shelter, the cattle dogs, the shepherds, the more dogs that are high energy, that need a lot of exercise, people go into it with the best intention to have a family dog, but then they realize quickly once that dog starts getting to be a young adult that that is not going to fit their lifestyle, and then it's the dog that suffers.
Yeah, that's certainly true. And I don't want to be blaming anybody, but I think when Taco Bell had their little Chihuahua that was their mascot, and then Paris Hilton was carrying around her Chihuahua, I think all of a sudden there was like an explosion of Chihuahuas in the shelter. And I think, okay, I would say I have two. I love them dearly. They're a pain in the ass. They're also the sweetest, most loving individuals I've ever been around. They really are, and they're so loyal. And Nigel in particular is very very. He just knows if you're having a bad day or you don't feel well, or if the dog is not feeling well. So I don't want to bash Chihuahuas, but there's a lot of reasons why they end up in the shelter because they do bark. They're kinetic. They need a lot of exercise. You don't think little dogs do. So again, it goes back to what Christine said, is just really think about your lifestyle, be honest about it, and then, and choose wisely, because it's supposed to be a lifetime commitment, right? And that's the other thing. And I get tired of that. People, oh, well, I got a new baby, or I got this, or whatever, I need to move. You need to think about that. And there are plenty of people who have done all that and kept their dog. So anyway, we're getting off topic. Last thing I want to talk about is kind of our decision making in rescue, why we say yes or no. I get asked that a lot, like a lot. I just got asked that not too long ago, and we were sorting out medication that had been donated to us. And we spent like 3 hours doing that. And they're like, why'd you say yes to this dog? Why'd you say this to this dog? So, for me, I'd like to say it's always a very smart choice, but I look with my eyes too. So sometimes, and my heart, if I see a dog, and we've talked about Bunny, like Bunny. I mean, that one just killed me because she had been shot and then she was hit by a car, and I knew nobody else was going to get her. So that's why I said yes to her. We were very lucky we got a foster, but what it's supposed to be is I'm supposed to have a foster lined up, know that we have money in the bank to be able to support the dog, whatever it needs. We are lucky we have a few donors who do donate to medical, like major medical things. So sometimes that weighs in on my decision. But the biggest one now is because we really are not, I put dogs in boarding for years just to save their lives. And I don't know if it was a great idea or not. We've gotten them out, but sometimes it did take a long time. So for me right now, it's a lot about, do we have a foster? Do we have the funds to take care of whatever the dog's needs are? And is it a dog I think that we can place? So those are the things. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Christine, because I know you're in that mix too.
No, I think people forget when you're a foster-based rescue, if we don't have any place to put the dog, as much as we want to say yes, we can't. And like PJ said, we often look at the dogs that we know another rescue is not going to take. A lot of the dogs that have medical or even senior dogs, the ones that we don't pick the easy dogs. We want to
Right.
help the dogs that no one else is going to. We would love to say yes, like every rescue, to every dog. But as PJ explained, there's a process, and I think people forget as a foster-based rescue, we can't take the dog and just put it somewhere. We have to have things lined up beforehand, and sometimes we don't have everything lined up, but we make it work, and it's tough, but we do make it work, and um,
I don't know if I can see it. I can hear Maddie snoring, so hopefully you don't think it's us. But yeah, no, it's exactly right. And there was a time, that we had a few, two or three people who would do moms and puppies. So we did moms and puppies a lot. I can't do that anymore. We don't have them. That does burn people out. I mean, each of those fosters, over the lifetime of fostering, fostered like between 300 or 400 or 200 dogs each, when you count it all up. And it's exhausting. Even if you love it, it's exhausting with, the puppies and the moms. I would love to do that, but we just don't have that ability now. So that's something we're saying no to. I don't even look at them because I know we really can't do it. I mean, I'm very
yeah.
social case by case. If it's if it's a mom and a few puppies, we might be able to get somebody to do it. But for, as a general rule, again, when we did that, I mean, we did thousands of moms and puppies that way. But yeah, I think we want to say yes to everybody. And what I always tell people, and even when I'm talking to donors, when I'm talking to anybody, even writing grant applications, I always say, we want to save more dogs. I know we can't save them all, but we just want to save more. And that's really, we do as much as we can with the resources, time, and we have a very small but mighty team. There's not that many of us, but we do have some fosters. So that's how we do it. So
And that's where temp fostering would, you know, even if you can't foster long term, like a temp foster at least gives us a place to put the dog while we look for a longer term situation. And that enables us to be able to say yes. For those of you that are either on the fence about fostering or just can't commit to a long term situation, you can make a huge impact by offering a week or 2 weeks just to give us some time to find a more permanent situation. So, we always need short-term fosters, not only for that situation, but when our fosters go out of town, work trips, vacation. I mean, they have lives, so we don't want to, you
right.
know, tie them to their home. So we're always in need of a temporary placement to help us out. So that would enable us to be able to say yes even more.
Right. So that is, we'll end it there. I think that's a really good place. We'll probably talk more about this because we could talk about fostering and volunteering
All
forever.
day
But there
long.
are there are a lot of ways to get involved. People, I say donate because that is one of the most effective ways. People say I don't have any money, then donate your time. So anyway, thank you for listening to our update. We will be back next week with another update. And thank you for tuning in, and we will see you next week.